Good evening, people. Thank you for listening to J-Ho the Sports Dude. Welcome to my very own sports podcast. All right, let's turn this off. All right, thank you for listening. So we had a pretty busy week in the world of sports. We got the Celtics. We got the Bruins. We got some pretty big news outside of Boston sports. With Tiger Woods finally winning a Masters, and we got some news about Magic Johnson, and we got some other quick stories. But first, before we get into the before we get into the rest of the stories, I just wanted to mention I wanted to give a shout out to the UMass hockey team. This week, they were in the tournament, and they were able to get into the finals against past Denver in a really crazy overtime game. It was a lot of fun to watch, but it definitely made it almost I think it almost gave me a heart attack or something like that. And then unfortunately they were not able to win the national championship. They lost to Minnesota. But I just wanted to say congratulations to the UMass hockey team for having a great season. I don't believe a UMass team has ever done this well in a tournament since, I want to say, the Calipari teams in the 90s with UMass basketball. So I'm very happy and proud of this team. I could not be happier about what this team accomplished this year. No team in my time here has ever done this well, and what a fun journey it was to be a part of, to watch this team. Like, this team had a lot of grit. It didn't give up, and I'm really happy for this hockey team, and I just want to say congratulations to them. Obviously losing the national championship stings, but I believe they lost to the better teams, so I can't be too mad about the effort that UMass put forth. So congratulations to those guys, and we'll see how UMass hockey does from here, because it was a great entertaining season, and it made and that team made hockey popular at UMass again. All right then, why don't we go into the Boston Celtics? So I'm gonna give you my view on the series, and I actually saw game one, and I'll tell you my quick thoughts about that. All right then, so this is my preview for the series. So let's look at some stats. So the Celtics are 14th in let's look at points per game. Celtics are 14th, Pacers are 22nd. So these aren't the greatest offensive teams in the NBA. Field goal percentage, Celtics are 14th, Pacers are 4th. 3-point percentage, Celtics are 7th, Pacers are 5th. Free throw percentage, Celtics are 4th, Pacers are 22nd. My God. Celtics average 112.4 points per game. This is, by the way, regular season stats. And Pacers average 108 points per game. From the field, the Celtics are 46.5, Pacers are 47.5%. 3-point percentage, Celtics are 36.5%, Pacers are 37.4%. From free throw percentage, Celtics are 80.2% and Pacers are 75.2%. Celtics in defensive rating are 107 and they're 6th, and Pacers are 105.9 in defensive rating and they're 3rd. So, not exactly the greatest offensive teams, but definitely strong on the defensive end. The Celtics this year were 3-1 against the Pacers in the regular season. So the Celtics definitely had the edge over the Indiana Pacers. So unfortunately, Marcus Smart is not going to be playing in this series. Smart has a torn oblique, so that means he'll be missing 4 to 6 weeks. So essentially, he'd be missing the first 2 series of the playoffs. So So definitely a big loss for the Celtics. I was very upset when I heard that he was hurt. So here are the key victories for the Celtics to win this series. So one, do not let Bojan Bogdanovic go off. He's their best player, so don't let him go off. Do not let the Pacers go off from three, because they're not. So they're fifth in the NBA in 3-point percentage, which is solid. So I think if as long as you don't let them go off from three, then I think the Celtics can neutralize their offense and just let them attack in the paint. They're a very bad free throw percentage shooting team, so take advantage of that. And also get rebounds and limit turnovers. So, in my opinion, I think the Celtics are going to win this series. If Victor Oladipo was healthy, this might have been an interesting series, but the fact that he's not healthy and is out for the year means I think the Celtics have a huge advantage over the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers, they play hard. They play good defense. I just don't think they have the talent to match up with the Boston Celtics. I'm saying Boston Celtics in 5. All right, then. So why don't we actually go over what happened in Game 1? So in Game 1, the Boston Celtics won 84-74. So kind of not the highest scoring game. A pretty ugly victory, but a victory nevertheless for the Celtics. In fact, honestly, the score's a little deceiving because the Celtics led by a lot in this game, and they were blowing the Pacers out. So Indiana, they put a lot of garbage points at the end of the game, so that made it seem closer than it was. But this game was not very close in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So let's look at the stats for the game. So Marcus Morris led the team in scoring with 20 points. Field goal percentage, Boston hit 36.4% of their shots. Indiana hit 33.3% of their shots. Get a load of this. Boston hit 35.7 from 3, which is not great. The Pacers shot 22.2% from 3. Turnovers, Boston had 20 turnovers. Indiana had 13. Boston had 68 rebounds. Indiana had 50. So Boston definitely had the rebounding advantage. Also, Kyrie Irving also had 20 points and 7 assists. So Kyrie Irving had a pretty solid game. I thought the Celtics played well in this game, especially on the defensive end and from a rebounding standpoint. And I would say the first quarter was pretty even though the Celtics were very sloppy with turnovers and missed shots. And in the second quarter, the offense was pretty down, only scoring 18 points in the second quarter, and Indiana scoring 25 points. So going into the second half, Indiana had the lead, and I was not very happy with the way the Celtics were playing. And then in the third quarter, the Celtics got up to a pretty surmountable lead. But here's the thing. I don't know if this is an overreaction, but the Celtics, they did play better. They scored 26 points. They scored 26 points in the third quarter, but honestly, and I'm not joking, and I don't think I'm overreacting, that third quarter by the Indiana Pacers, offensively, was the worst quarter of offensive basketball I have ever seen. They were awful. I think at one point in the second half, they were 2 for 23 from the arc. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen worse offensive basketball. I mean, they missed wide open shots and layups. I mean, it was atrocious. And the Celtics did take advantage. And honestly, they should have completely blown them out. The only reason it wasn't a complete blowout is because the Celtics weren't exactly great from offense either. But they were solid, and the Pacers were all-time bad. I mean, they scored 8 points in the third quarter. 8. I think at one point they had 3 points in the third quarter. It was that bad. And a lot of those points were off 3 free throws. And they missed a lot of them too. Like, the Pacers, like I said before, how they were bad from the free throw line. And that kind of showed in the game. Free throw percentage, Boston hit 18 of 22 of their shots. from the free throw line, and the Pacers shot 12 of 21. So they were terrible. I mean, I don't know how you. I mean, honestly, Syracuse basketball could probably put up more points than the Pacers did. I mean, I obviously was happy that they weren't playing well, but I was just in shock at just how bad they were. So, the Celtics did take advantage, and at that point, it was basically over. I mean, the Pacers dwindled the lead, but at that point, the Celtics were just ticking the time off. They basically rested everybody, and they weren't really even trying. It was really nice when Terry Rozier hit a three to end the third quarter, just to epitomize just how lopsided that quarter was. Yeah, so I would say a good victory. Like I said before, an ugly victory, but a victory, nevertheless. So the good thing about the one takeaway you could take away from this victory is it was a convincing victory, but the Celtics definitely still have a lot to work on. Offensively, hitting 36.4% from the arc, that ain't gonna cut it. Scoring 84 points ain't gonna cut it. Having 20 turnovers you can't do that. You have to be more careful with the ball. Actually, the biggest problem I have with this game is they turn the ball over way too much. And you can't count on the Pacers, as derived of talent as they are. You can't expect them to be that horrific in the third quarter. Like that was an especially kind of bad. That was New York Knicks bad. That was Chicago Bulls bad. That was Phoenix Suns bad. Like that was horrible. You can't expect them to do that again. I mean, if they play like this, then Boston's gonna sweep them. But you cannot count on them being that bad in the next game. So they need to be more efficient from shooting, and they need to turn the ball over less. Like I said, I did really like that they out-rebounded Indiana, and that definitely played a crucial part into the Celtics winning this game. But next game, they got to be a little more crisp, and if they can do that, then and the Pacers don't. I mean, even if they play a little better and the Celtics fix their issues, I think this should be a pretty quick series. So yeah, good win, and the Celtics are up 1-0, but we'll see where we go from there. All right, then when we take a quick break and then we come back, we'll talk about the Boston Bruins and their mixed home stretch. All right, then welcome back to J-Ho the Sports Dude, and let's talk about the Bruins. So Bruins played at home in Game 1 and Game 2 with very mixed results. So in the actually, Game 3 is going on right now, so after that, I'll give you a quick recap of it. So just for fun. And so Game 1, the Bruins laid a doozy out there and looked bad and lost 4-1. Actually, I'll take that back. In the first period, they actually looked pretty well. They looked pretty good. In the first period, they scored first with a power play goal from Patrice Bergeron. And then after that, everything kind of went downhill. The Bruins got outscored 4-0 after that, and they just lost Game 1. It was really sad to watch. So let's go over some stats. Shots, Bruins had 38. Maple Leafs have 33. Hits, Bruins had 31. Maple Leafs had 33. Bruins were 1 for 2 on the power play. Leafs were 0 for 1 on the power play. Takeaways, Maple Leafs had 19, and the Bruins had 6. I'll get to that later. Patrice Bergeron was the only positive of this game. He had a goal. That's about it. Just a lot of things were just bad about this team. For one, they were just incredibly sloppy with the puck. The takeaways just show that. The Maple Leafs had 19 takeaways to the Bruins 6. So that just shows you how just sloppy with the puck they were. They got a lot of shots, but they just never really got any good shots. You got to give credit to Freddie Anderson, who had 37 saves on 38 shots. So you got to give credit to him. Defensively, they just They just weren't good enough. Mitch Marner had 2 goals, and at this point, I think he's becoming a Boston killer. But honestly, it was just a mess. I mean, the first period they played good. Tuukka Rask, I mean, I'm not gonna put this on him, because the Bruins they didn't do enough up front in front of Rask. Even though the goal that made it 3-1, he should have blocked that. But honestly, I'm not gonna put this on Rask. So it was just a horrible, ugly, sloppy performance by the Bruins. And in game 2, they would fix their errors, and they would beat the Maple Leafs handily. They won 4-1. It's kind of interesting that they won by the same score that they lost in game 1, 4-1. That's kind of interesting. So let's look at the stats. So 41 shots by the Bruins, 31 shots by the Maple Leafs, hits 44 by the Bruins, 39 shots by hits by the Maple Leafs. Penalty minutes, Toronto had 21-8. Takeaways, Maple Leafs had 5, Bruins had 12. Giveaways, Maple Leafs had 14, Bruins had 8. So it was the other way around. Toronto was playing sloppy, and the Bruins were able to take advantage of that. So Tuukka Rask had a pretty good game, blocking 30 of 31 shots. So pretty good when facing 31 shots. I mean, it's hard for me to be too harsh on Freddie Anderson when he's facing 41 shots, but the Bruins offense definitely played well. David Backes had an assist, and Brad Marchand had a goal and assist. So it was a very dominant and good win by the Bruins. However, it was also a very costly one too. In this game, it got kind of physical, and some of the injuries started to pile up for the Bruins. Torrey Krug left the game after getting hit in the head. Jake DeBrusk got a cheap cross-check from Nazem Kadri, and he had to leave the game, and Kadri got kicked out of the game. And plus, the Bruins are already dealing with the fact that Marcus Johansson and Sean Corrali and John Moore are hurt too, So the Bruins are definitely playing with injuries, but hopefully they'll be fine. And I actually just read that Torrey Krug and Jake DeBrusk are going to play for playing game 3. I don't know if they'll be on a minutes restriction. I'm just a little worried that they're just not going to be the same just because they got beat up in game 2, but. On game 3, and this is an important game for the Bruins. The Bruins must win at least one game in Toronto because they got to make up for the fact that they lost at home. It's just got to happen. And also, I just got some news that Nazem Kadri is suspended for the whole series. I can't say I'm too shocked. Kadri. I mean, he's had a dirty past. So when your reputation catches up to you, this is what's going to happen. So as for the Bruins, continue getting shots. Stop being sloppy with the puck and giving it away, and try to figure out Freddie Anderson because he's actually playing pretty decently, and is probably the only reason why this series. One of the big reasons why this series is that close. All right, then. Why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have to discuss the Red Sox, and we'll discuss Tiger Woods, and then looks like the game is coming to an end, and we'll have to talk about the Bruins. All right, then. Welcome back to J.O. the Sports Dude, and let's talk about the Red Sox. So the Red Sox, after coming off a pretty horrible road stint, have come back to home to Boston to play their home stretch. And it was pretty nice. They got their World Series rings, the players. Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman were there. And, of course, David Ortiz was there to celebrate the Red Sox winning the World Series. You got a lot of players from the 2004 and 2008 championship team. And then we started the home stint by playing speaking of Toronto, the Toronto Blue Jays. And game 1, they lost 7-5. It was horrible. So in this game, the Boston was up 2-0, so it looked kind of good at first. And then the next thing you know, it was Chris Sale allowed five runs, and it was 5-2. Then the Red Sox scored 2 more runs to make it 5-4 to make it closer. And then after that, but just couldn't hold on, make it close. And then the Red Sox lost 7-5. I mean, this was just a bad loss. Chris Sale looked bad. It kind of gave me flashbacks to game 1, in which he didn't have the command at all, and he was just trying to forcing in his fastball. Obviously, it wasn't that bad because he wasn't allowing home runs, and it was only 7 runs compared to, I believe, I think the Mariners scored 14 in that game. So just a really bad loss. Game 2, the Red Sox won 7-6 off a Devers walk-off single. So Eovaldi pitched, won that good, allowed 5 runs to the Blue Jays in the third. The Red Sox were able to get 3 runs, and then in the fifth got a run to make it close. And then in the ninth inning, they were down 6-5. But then Moreland was able to tie the game off a double, and Devers was able to finish the comeback, like I said, with a single. So very good victory by the Red Sox. To go up 0-2 against the Blue Jays, who are not a very good team, would have been horrible. And speaking of horrible, let's move on to the Baltimore series. So first game actually went pretty well for the Red Sox. They won 6-4. Rodriguez pitched. He pitched pretty well. The Red Sox got up to a 3-0 lead. And then Baltimore made it interesting by scoring 2 runs in the 7th. The Red Sox then put up 3 more runs to go up 6-2. Then Baltimore scored 2 runs in the 9th to make it close, but the game was over, and the Red Sox were able to win the game 6-4. Game 2 was a disaster. They lost 9-5. Baltimore scored first, scoring 2 runs in the first. The Red Sox were able to tie it, and then next thing you know, in the 6th inning, the Baltimore Orioles scored 4 runs, and it was basically over from there. Rick Porcello continues to not look like himself. Chris Davis, remember that guy? The guy who went 0 for 54 in his last 54 at-bats? Yeah, he hit 3 hits. He got 3 hits. My God. Ugh, jeez. So, pretty rough loss by the Red Sox. Next game, the Red Sox won 4-0. David Price, who I think at this point has been our best pitcher, looked pretty good with a shutout. And the Red Sox had 1 run in the 4th, and then in the 8th inning, they scored 3 runs to essentially put away the game. And game 4, the Red Sox lost 8-1 and looked like absolute poop. They were a disaster. What a disgrace. Today was kind of the bullpen day in which Hector Velasquez started for the Red Sox and didn't look that good. The bullpen was just awful. 3 runs in the 5th inning, 2 runs in the 8th, 2 runs in the 9th. What a disgrace. Oh my God. And then also, guess what? Chris Davis hit a home run. Remember when I said that the getting down 14-1 against Arizona was the low point of the season? It might be, but a good runner-up would be the day that you gave up 3 hits to Chris Davis and a freaking home run. Oh my God. So, just awful. To the Orioles, who are terrible. Oh yeah. I think they have a better record than the Red Sox too. Yeah. So here are a few takeaways from this game. The Red Sox have been a bit more consistent than they were, but they're just still off, and they still need to catch up on a lot of ground because they're under 500. The offense is pretty sporadic. Sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't. Like the last game, they only scored 1 run, so sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't. Defense is a little better. Pitching is pretty mixed. Price is probably, like I said before, Price is probably our best pitcher. Sale and Evaldi haven't really looked quite well. Porcello's been awful. So you got a team that's slightly better, but they definitely need a lot of work to fix. And and they gotta fix things quick because next they're playing the New York Yankees, who are dealing with their own problems. They have a lot of injuries and they've been losing a lot of games too, but they've looked slightly better than the Red Sox so far this season. So they need to fix things up in order to beat the Yankees. So hopefully the Red Sox can fix their issues. All right then. So why don't we quickly go over this game with the Bruins and the Maple Leafs? So in this game, it was a pretty tight physical hockey game, and unfortunately the Maple Leafs came on top. The Leafs beat the Bruins 3-2 in a ugly, gross game. So all right, let's look at the stats. So the Bruins had 36 shots, and the Maple Leafs had 34 shots. Hits, Bruins had 33. Maple Leafs had 42. Face-off wins, Bruins had 28. Maple Leafs had 35. Power play opportunities, Maple Leafs were 2 of 3 on the power play. Bruins were 1 for 3. Takeaways, Bruins had 3. Maple Leafs had 6. To giveaways, Bruins had 14, and the Maple Leafs had 11. Charlie Coyle scored a goal. So, I mean, he was the best forward for the Bruins. And he also scored a goal in the other game, too. So, good for Charlie Coyle. Here's the problem. Oh, also, I'll mention that Andres Johnson had a goal and assist. And Freddie Anderson has been amazing. He had 34 saves and was able to block basically most of the Bruins shots. But here's the problem. Charlie Coyle has been the best forward for the Bruins. I mean, in this game, Patrice Bergeron, the top line didn't do anything. Like Patrice Bergeron, David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, they didn't do Brad Marchand. They didn't do anything. Like the front line for the Bruins was completely neutralized, and they didn't really get a lot of support either. Like in this game, they were just out hustled. Like I watched it. Like the effort wasn't there. Like the Maple Leafs just seemed like they wanted this game much more. Like they out-hit the Bruins. They won more faceoffs. They were less sloppy with the puck. They didn't have as much giveaways, and they had more takeaways. And plus, like, what the Bruins are known for is their special teams. And the special teams was awful. They had 3 power play opportunities. They were only able to get 1 goal. And the Maple Leafs were able to get 2 goals off the power play. Oh, yeah. So it was not fun to watch. And for the next game, the Bruins need to put a lot more effort. And Patrice Bergeron, and Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak need to do a lot more. And the Bruins need to score more. And they need to figure out Freddie Anderson, because this game was not acceptable. Like the Maple Leafs, it just seemed like like I said before, they had the energy. Like the Bruins, they just looked completely flat. Like power play just wasn't there. They could not handle the puck. They barely got the puck in their own zone. And I mean, it was horrible. All right then. So, must-win game, and like I said before, they still need to win in Toronto, because if they don't, then I think they're probably done. All right then. Why don't we move on to some happier news? So, Tiger Woods won the Masters. the 2019 Masters. He led the leaderboard with a -13. So I'll be the first to admit I'm not a big golf guy, and I'm not a big golf fan. I love playing golf. It's a fun sport to play. It's not the most fun sport to watch, but this was I definitely had to talk about this as a main story because this is one of the biggest sports events like I've ever had to talk about because this story transcends sports. And Tiger Woods had probably one of the greatest comebacks in the history of sports. And as a movie fan who loves storylines, I mean, nothing is better than the story of a miraculous comeback. And there's probably no bigger comeback that I can remember, probably since the 28-3 Patriots, since the Patriots were down 28-3 than Tiger Woods. I mean, at one point, Tiger Woods was the most dominant athlete probably in the world. Like, he was the consensus best golfer. He was dominant. He was basically when you bet a golf tournament, you bet the field or you bet Tiger Woods. And I remember when I was a kid, when Tiger Woods was really in his prime, I remember my earliest memory as a Tiger Woods is when I read Sports Illustrated Kids when I got back from karate, and I was looking at the top athletes at the time, and Tiger Woods was ranked number 1. He was loved with endorsements, and he basically lifted golf to another level of popularity that it never experienced before. And then everything just went crashing down. And then after things went crashing down, he was terrible in any tournament, and his career was never the same. Like, the last time he won a major before this was 2008. I was 11 years old, and he hadn't won a Masters since 2005. I was 8 years old, so I was a little kid. So that was a long time ago. And I don't think I can remember in my lifetime an athlete, as far as athletic performance, go from so high to so low in a matter of seconds. It was sad. Obviously, like athletes like O.J. Simpson and like Lance Armstrong fell from grace, but those are, I consider, kind of more. Those really aren't performance based. Tiger's fall from grace was from a performance standpoint because he was the top guy in golf to a guy who wasn't even close to winning a tournament. Like, it was really sad. It was one of the biggest droughts in sports. It kind of reminded me of the Patriots drought when they couldn't win a Super Bowl for 10 years. They actually don't even remind me of that because at least the Patriots were close. Tiger wasn't even that close. And also, let's go over the timeline of Tiger's fall from grace because it's really shocking. Because to understand how far Tiger has come, you need to understand where he came from. So to me, this all kind of started in 2009. Obviously, this scandal doesn't really I don't think it really correlates to his fall from grace, but it's definitely a part of how much he fell. So in 2009, he had a car crash, and he was dealing with the falling out from the cheating scandal with his wife, and he had to go to sex addiction therapy. And this was I remember this was a pretty big deal. This was all over the news. Everybody was making fun of him. He had the "I'm sorry" press conference in which everybody made fun of, and it really hurt Tiger Woods' reputation. And then the injuries started to pile up. He had neck injury in 2010. He had a sprained MCL, Achilles injury in 2011, Achilles injury in 2012, back surgery in 2014 and 15, back surgery. He got a spinal fusion in 2017. For a while, we didn't even know Tiger Woods was going to be able to play golf. And with that many back surgeries, you could imagine it would be hard for him to walk, let alone play golf. And in 2017, he got arrested for driving under the influence of prescription drugs, and that's where we got the famous mugshot, in which sparked a million memes. And so, with Tiger Woods, you you thought that this just wasn't going to happen. Actually, at one point, I just said he's never going to win another major. I just couldn't see it because one, he was getting older, and the competition he was going up against was much younger, and also a lot of those players that have been coming up, they were inspired by Tiger, because Tiger was one of the first great golf players that was actually a great athlete and really conditioned himself. And I think a lot of the golf players that were rising, that were younger than Tiger, were really inspired by him. And like, I don't think competition in golf has ever been greater than now. And also, when Tiger Woods played golf, I mean, there was always a fear factor. Like, you always had to look behind your head. Like, golfers who competed against him always had to look behind their head to make sure Tiger wasn't ahead of them. And Tiger brought fear to the tournament. Kind of like the Patriots. Like, when the Patriots hit the field, usually the team has already lost because they're afraid they can't win. And the same for Tiger Woods. Like, he went from one of the most feared athletes on the planet to just a sad figure who everybody felt bad for. So I really didn't think this was possible. But Tiger was able to do it. He was, even this past year, he was playing a lot better, even though he hadn't won a major. And for a while, Tiger was down in the tournament, but he was still pretty close, and he kept being in there. And the thing about Tiger Woods is, for most of his career, he's considered more of a front runner. Like, the way Tiger Woods would win a tournament, he would just get ahead of everybody, and he would just win and dominate you. Like, with this tournament, he had to come back. Like, he had to be slow, steady, strategic. Like, he couldn't hit the ball as far as he used to, so he had to be strategic, and he had to be patient. And in the third round, he was able to pick up, and he was able to get a lead. And once he was able to get the lead, he was able to stay the course and was able to win the Masters, his first championship in 11 years, and his first Masters in 14 years. Man, it's crazy. Like Tom Brady, Tiger Woods is 43. So like Tom Brady, Tiger Woods can't compete with the young guys. Even though I would say golf is probably a sport in which it is more inclined for older guys to succeed than football. And I'm really happy for this. That this happened, even though I'm not a big golf fan, because one, I think golf is better when Tiger Woods is doing well. I just think golf needs a personality and somebody with swagger like Tiger Woods. And I don't know, Tiger Woods, I don't know, his legacy and just the storyline of Tiger Woods just makes golf more interesting. And like, I think I would have made this like a side story if Tiger didn't win, but because Tiger won, I'm making this a major story. And the story that this kind of reminds me of, as far as a comeback, I was starting to think of like, what comebacks does this remind me of? Because there's been a lot of great comebacks in sports history. And the one that kind of came to mind was George Foreman when he became the heavyweight championship at 45, and it'd been a while since he had won, and he was able to go against the odds and win the heavyweight championship at 45. So that's kind of what this reminds me of, because at one point I just never thought Tiger would be able to win a Master. And considering how his body was going and how the competition became better, and like those young players, they don't fear Tiger Woods the same way, because that was a long time ago when Tiger was dominant. They remember those days, but it's not like they're experiencing it. So good for Tiger Woods. And now he's 3 majors away from passing Jack Nicklaus. But before we really go into that, let's just enjoy this one. Because honestly, if this was it, this would be a pretty good way to go out. This just made me smile. All right, then why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll discuss Magic Johnson making a surprising decision, and then we'll go into some quick stories. All right, then welcome back to J-Ho, the Sports Dude, and let's continue talking about some sports. So, Magic Johnson, yeah, he stepped down, and during his press conference, he made a pretty surprising announcement that he was stepping down, and it definitely came out of nowhere. Also, Luke Walton got fired. And also, apparently Magic didn't tell Jeannie Buss or LeBron James beforehand, so everybody kind of found out the same way. So this is a statement from Magic Johnson about why he is resigning from as president of the Los Angeles Lakers. I had more fun when I was able to be the big brother and ambassador to everybody. I thought about Dwayne Wade retiring tomorrow, and I can't even tweet it out or be there. When Ben Simmons called and we went through the proper channels and they made me look like the bad guy out of that situation, but I didn't do anything wrong. I was thinking about all those times, all the guys we want me to mentor them or be part of their lives, or I can't do that. And I can't even do that. I had more fun on the other side than in this side. And he said, I think that with team owner Jeannie Buss and I want to always preserve our relationship with her. Sometimes I'm sometimes going to have to tell my boss because I knew I just couldn't be face to face and tell her. I just couldn't stand to tell her. And then this is a statement from the Los Angeles Lakers. We thank him for the work that these past 2 years as president of basketball operations and wish Cookie, Andre, EJ, Elise, so Cookie's his wife and Andre, EJ, and Elise are his kids, all the best with the next step. He will always be not only a Laker icon, but our family. As we begin a process to move forward, we will work in a measured, methodical fashion to make the right moves for the future of the organization. And so... yeah, and from what I've heard, Rob Pelinka might stay there. Okay. So Adrian Wojnarowski did talk about this, and he said that Magic didn't want to work there because he didn't want to be unpopular, and he did not enjoy the daily grind of being the president, and he did not like working with people in the Lakers organization. So, from my takeaway is that, one, Magic Johnson, he likes being liked. Magic Johnson likes to charm people and likes people to like him. So with this job, he was being heavily scrutinized, and I don't think that really sat well with Magic Johnson. And also with a job like this, it's a daily grind, and it's not really for people that are outgoing and do interviews all the time and are on Jimmy Kimmel and all that stuff. Danny Ainge, he doesn't do that. He does interview on sports radio, but he doesn't do any big press conferences. He doesn't do any. He doesn't go on Jimmy Kimmel and become not like a celebrity. So that's being president of or GM of a basketball team. You can't just be a celebrity. I don't know. It just. With Magic having multiple things, he has the Dodgers, he has his own organization, he has his own charities. This is just too much. I think being president is just too much for him. In the press conference, I don't know. It just was really weird. He was kind of awkward, and also I think he realizes that this organization is kind of a mess. As president, I don't think he liked working with Rob Pelinka, and I think it kind of stressed him out that people looking at him as a novice and him and Rob Pelinka as people who are inexperienced and people don't like him. I think that Magic Johnson didn't really like that, and also I think the fact that Jeannie Buss told him what to do made him didn't sit well with him. So I don't know. I just think Magic just wasn't cut out for this job, and I think there's something in that organization, because there was going to be an article by ESPN to come out how dysfunctional the organization is, and I think the Lakers tried to talk ESPN out of doing that. So there's definitely a lot of problems in that Lakers organization, and I think they're going to have a hard time attracting free agents this offseason. considering the state of this organization. I don't even know, like, they don't even have a GM. Like, I mean, they don't actually, yeah, they do. It's Rob Pelinka. Whoopee. They don't even have a president. So I just don't really see this. I don't see this working for the Lakers. All right, then. Why don't we go into some quick stories? So quick stories are stories that I obviously don't really have much to say about each story, but they're big stories of the week, so I kind of feel like I have to talk about them. So Boston Marathon's today, so pretty big day in Boston. It's a little rainy out, but hopefully the conditions will be nice, and hopefully all the runners do really well. Also, I want to give a shout out to Alexa and Beth for running the Boston Marathon. Hopefully, you guys do well, and I'm definitely cheering for you guys at UMass. Also, Tampa Bay Lightning. What's wrong with them? They're down 3-0. This is a team that has tied for the most victories in a season, and they're down 3-0 to the 6th-seeded Columbus Blue Jackets, who are a good team. They kind of underachieved during the regular season, but they're definitely making up for it now. I mean, this is unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. I mean, besides game one, this series hasn't been that close. Like, Columbus has been owning Tampa Bay, and I think this series is over. I mean, I wouldn't completely give up on Tampa. They have the firepower to come back from this. I mean, it would be a humongous collapse, and there hasn't been a comeback like that since the Bruins came back, lost to the Flyers from 3-0 in 2010. But I mean, this would be, I don't think it's a stretch to say that this would be the greatest upset in hockey history, and at least in NHL history. I would say probably in hockey history, the 1980 U.S. hockey team beating the Soviets would still be a bigger upset. But I would put this in the top 5 of biggest upset in sports history. Like, I'm thinking about in sports. So in basketball, the 73 win Warriors team lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers, being up 3-1. But they did make it to the finals, and they lost to a LeBron James-led team. Obviously, there's the 18-0 Pats, who went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Giants. But they made it to the Super Bowl. So, and then obviously I mentioned the 1980 Soviets and the U.S. hockey team, but I think that's still a slightly bigger upset. And then, of course, you have the Seattle Mariners, who have the record for most wins in a regular season, and they lost to the Yankees in the playoffs. But they lost to a dynasty team in the Yankees. So I guess even though they probably should have maybe competed for a World Series, there's no shame in losing to the Yankees, who were basically a dynasty in the 90s. I mean, they're losing to a team that I don't think has ever won a first round series. So, wow. So it was 95-96 Detroit Red Wings that are tied with the Tampa Bay Lightning for the most victories in a season. And the 95 Red Wings, they didn't actually reach the Stanley Cup finals, but I mean, they did lose in the Western Conference Finals against Colorado, who was the second-ranked team. They lost in 6, but I mean, they did make it that far. If Tampa Bay doesn't win, I mean they lost the first round. That's crazy. Like, my goodness. Also, I was thinking about football, and another game that this reminds me of is the playoff game against the 49ers and Minnesota Vikings. I believe this is the 87 49ers. They have the number one offense and defense, and they were playing a Minnesota Viking team that barely made it into the playoffs, and the Vikings smoked them, and Joe Montana got benched, and Steve Young couldn't win the game. So, yeah, this would go down as one of the greatest upsets in the history of sports. All right, then, next topic. Virginia was able to win the national championship against Texas Tech. So speaking of things I never would have saw, this was a great story too. Speaking of redemption, remember last year this team lost to a 16th seed, which it was one of the most embarrassing moments in college basketball history. Well, this team was able to come back and was able to win the national championship, like Tiger Woods. Even though I wouldn't say they came back from odds like Tiger did, they were able to. This was also a great redemption story too. So congratulations to Virginia. And Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade played their last games, and they went out with some pretty big games. Dirk scored around 30 points, and Dwayne Wade had a really good game for his last game. So it's crazy. Like all the athletes that I grew up watching are retiring. It's kind of weird. Like I believe both of these guys are top 20 players of all time. I would say Dwayne Wade, I would say, is slightly the better player, but I think Dirk made the bigger impact than Dwayne Wade because of giving a championship to Dallas and his impact on foreign players. So great careers. It was a lot of fun watching these guys. And last story, Kel McCarr, the superstar who won the Hobie Baker Trophy, is playing his first NHL game tonight for the Colorado Avalanche against the Calgary Flames. Man, playing your first game in the NHL in the playoffs against Calgary, and he's actually from Calgary, so he's playing his hometown team. So this is crazy. All right, then it looks like Kenya's Lawrence Cherino and Ethiopia's Worknish Degfa. I can't pronounce these names. Won the Boston Marathon, so good for them. And like I said before, shout out to Beth and Alexa for running the marathon. Definitely a lot of hard work, and it's not really. I can't imagine running the Boston Marathon because I could barely run. All right, then why don't we end the show and next week we'll deal with more Boston sports. And if you guys are disappointed I didn't talk enough about UMass hockey, I'll save that for next week. So thank you for listening to J-Ho the Sports Dude, and I'm out.